everybody. Welcome to Formula Facts. We had an exciting week that just passed by. I know we're really excited to get caught back up on what happened in China. I'm Jack Like, and I'm joined here with
Destinee Day.
So, Destinee, what did we think about the Chinese Grand Prix in Shanghai? What do we think?
None of my picks were right. I was way off.
I think we both were.
Yeah. So that did not go how I thought. Carlos Sainz is not performing to the level that I thought he would perform at. So I'm just going to have to close down that dream right now because it's killing my fantasy team.
I know I had him on mine too, but I'm slowly thinking I should move away from that. And maybe I'll replace him with Alex Albon. We'll see.
Oh my gosh. I know. Who would have thought, right?
They're having such a year. Yeah.
I mean, I think big takeaways from the Chinese Grand Prix. Liam Lawson did not perform again.
What's new? Yeah.
Both Ferraris got disqualified after Lewis won the sprint race. Like, one, it was really cool to see Lewis win a sprint, especially in a Ferrari. And then it was like so disheartening to see him disqualified from the Grand Prix. Both.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it was already like a pretty exciting weekend because of the sprint. Like you said, like Lewis it's good just to get 8 points right on the board, nice and early. It was a good race. I thought Max had a pretty good race for the sprint. And Oscar obviously got second. But then you're right, going all the way into the race and then seeing. I remember was it the next day? I remember it was the day of. I'm like, oh my gosh, both of them are getting disqualified. I'm thinking like, well, what could they have done? I read into it. I'm like reading this thing on my phone. I'm like, oh my god, like it's like the littlest like margin of like difference. I think it was like 1 kilogram that got them disqualified. I'm like, oh my gosh.
But that's how precise these teams have to operate, right? Like that's why F1 has the prestige that it does, because it is the pure level of precision that you need to operate in the sport.
What else happened in the race? Obviously, Max Verstappen finishing fourth. We did see, right, he had a pretty nice, he started fourth on the grid. And then right when he went into turn one, he kind of just went too far wide, right? And then we saw both Ferraris come back in front of him. But I think it was a very impressive drive from Max. And I think it shows that he has so much fight in him, especially towards the end when we see, like, when Norris is struggling and when Russell is struggling. We saw Verstappen during that whole time. He still stayed pretty close, but he was protecting his tires while the drivers in front of him were just kind of going all out, ripping up the tires. And we saw that being a problem eventually for Norris with the brakes. But I think it was definitely a positive race for Max. I know it looks bad because he was fourth, but definitely still a positive for him.
Yeah, I mean, that track with the tires, it ate everybody's tires, and it didn't seem like anyone had actually prepared for that. Like, it was a sprint weekend, right? So they only had one practice, and then they went into qualifying for sprint and then sprint. And when I was watching the sprint race, it was like, ooh, man, like these tires, they're wearing down really fast. And it didn't seem like any of the teams were prepared for how quickly their tires would degrade. So, there were so many like tire strategies kind of going on to manage that. It was kind of wild to see how teams dealt with it. But, right, who was it that pitted twice? Someone pitted twice, and I was like,
a couple people pitted twice. And I remember that was a big thing that they were talking about when I was watching. I watched it late because I didn't watch it live. I remember what they were saying is they were talking about we're going into we're staying with plan A, we're going to plan B, and they're trying to figure out, well, what is this plan A? Are they trying to go 2 stops? Are they trying to go 1 stop? And they're trying to figure this stuff out. And it definitely was pretty important when it came towards the end, because these tires get so destroyed on Shanghai. It's known for that, having the tires being ripped up on that race. And I think we also definitely saw some interesting tough stuff towards the end when there was looking like it might be rain, but then it wasn't rain, right? It was like a whole thing. And then towards the end with Lando's problem. So it was definitely interesting. I think it was definitely also a big challenge for only the second race of the year.
Yeah, it was definitely a difficult second race. I mean, not only they freaked everybody out with Piat. Like, they were freaking Piastri out because they were like, it might rain. And he was like, what does that mean? And this is a guy that is trying to make an impact and come back from a disastrous Melbourne experience. So I was pretty impressed with him. I'm not an Oscar Piastri fan, but it was impressive to see him like come back and really make a commitment to do well in this race.
Yeah, now it was also kind of interesting to see how other people performed in that race, right? We saw Alex Albon getting 7th, Kimi Antonelli landing 6th, and Esteban Ocon 5th, right, for a Haas, which is 10 points for a Haas is a lot of points, so good for them, right? Obviously, we saw a little bit of struggles when it came towards like De Behrman and some other things. Oh no, well, sorry, excuse me. Behrman only finished 8th, so 14 points put up for Haas in one race weekend is a big deal for them.
Yeah. Ollie was doing some really cool, he was really trying to make the moves on everybody. So it was cool to see him start to gain some confidence in the Haas.
Yeah. I think that's going to be something that's so important this year is to see how these rookies really like come into the role and they're going to see the team. I think it's also just getting comfortable with the car, getting comfortable with the pressure. And then we can go into, right, the nice little segment or a little segue into that is the pressure that was faced to Liam Lawson, right? I think I saw something on Instagram where he raced like less hours for Red Bull than the amount of races that Max Verstappen has done for Red Bull. I think Max Verstappen did like 188 and Liam Lawson was at Red Bull for like 170 something hours. So it's kind of interesting. But how the pressure really got to him, right? He only got through 2 races this year. And we were thinking, me and you, 4 and 5, right? And it was even earlier.
Yeah. I'm not, as a Red Bull fan, Red Bull is my team. I'm not upset about it. I kind of was on the fence about Liam Lawson anyways. I was not a Yuki fan, but at least Yuki's performing. And I would much rather see us put up points than stick around in a position to just see what happens. That's what we did all last year, and it didn't work. And it was so frustrating to see. So I'm glad they made a decision as quick as they did. I'm not upset about it. Like, if you're not performing, you're out. Goodbye. I also just don't have a lot of respect for Liam Lawson after the Checo incident from last year. So good riddance.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Especially when you get to these like higher level teams, they don't have the time. They don't have the time or the money, right, to deal with these drivers that are learning the car. If you're like competing for this, constructors championship, because that's what they're intending to compete for, you can't deal with whatever he's finishing. Now, he hasn't finished in the points right once yet, right? So that's not what they need. And it's definitely not helping the team out. Max can't win every single race right now. We can see that. So I think it just shows how harsh Red Bull is going to be this year. I think they're also trying to prove something to Max to show that we're trying to figure something out. We're trying to not only get the drivers' championship, we're also trying to get the constructors' championship with it. And like you said about Yuki, I was never a Yuki fan either. Like particularly, I did not like him. I just never was really rooting for him because he was a little immature always. But I think he's really coming to his own in the last couple of races, right? We've seen him really step up, I think, at Racing Bulls. And I think he really deserves a time to shine, right, at Red Bull. I think we saw last year, right, when they announced that Liam Lawson was becoming the Red Bull driver, like, we don't know if that's going to be Yuki. Well, we'll see. But I think we were okay with it because we didn't think Yuki could handle it. But now, obviously, after seeing that he could do it these last 2 races, we'll see what happens when it comes to Japan, right? His home race, right?
Yes, it's Yuki's home race. And this is a big deal that Red Bull did it right before Yuki's home race because one of Yuki's big backers is Honda. And so you can imagine Honda was really upset when they announced Liam over Yuki. And now it seems like Red Bull's also responding to pressures from the sponsors because they can give him more money if they pull it out before Yuki's home race, which honestly, let's do it. Like, why not? It's not even like Liam's in the points. So,
they have nothing.
Is a good move.
Yeah. And I don't know if you also saw that Red Bull is coming out with the white livery for Japan, which I think is going to be pretty sick, right? To see that car almost like a different color. Like we never see that before. It's going to be really exciting. And I'm really excited to see it. Also, Lando Norris, we saw, right, him struggled towards the end of that, right? What was that all about? That was all about the brakes, right?
Yeah, he was struggling with his with the brake pedals and stuff, and he didn't know if he was going to be able to make it through the whole race, but He did. I'm a Lando Norris fan. I think he does a great job, and so I was impressed with him. But I mean,
Yeah.
that's the first sign of weakness that we've seen from the McLarens. So it'll be interesting to see how they address it going forward, and if the other teams can figure out a way to exploit it, or it's just that season. So if you get a hint of weakness, the other teams will sniff it out real quick.
Yeah, I was gonna say just to maybe almost a little bit of the opposite of what you said. Right, how you think Lando handled it? I don't know. I think it might be. We always saw, right, McLaren recently definitely has been like as cool as a cucumber, right? We got this. We're not worried about anything else. We're just gonna keep on winning everything. I think that really showed that when things go wrong, like they were freaking, like you hear Lando in that car freaking out.
Well, it didn't have brakes. He might not have had any brakes. He's going 200 miles an hour. I'd be freaking out.
I know, but I'm just saying, I think it shows that when that team gets a weakness, other teams will realize that. And I don't know. Obviously, we see Ferrari has plenty of problems, and they always do because they're Ferrari. But they can almost figure out how to handle it. We'll see how McLaren can handle upcoming problems. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Speaking of McLaren, do you want to talk about Valtteri Bottas doing a test to be their backup driver in Barcelona?
Yeah. So I saw it on Instagram, and I was like, immediately sent it to you. I'm like, is this real? It sounds real. I don't know if it's real. But then I kept on reading. I'm like, okay, it actually seems real. But I was like, oh, but isn't he already the reserve driver for Mercedes? But then obviously we just talked before, and you said that he can be the reserve driver for a couple teams. So it looks like he's going to be there for Mercedes, right, for Williams, and for McLaren.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that just shows what a talented driver Valtteri is and his experience on the track, right? It's not like last year when Ferrari put Ollie Behrman in as their reserve driver, right? Like they put a rookie in a Ferrari car and he did well and they got incredibly lucky. And I think these teams are looking at, their reserve drivers having a bit of experience so that they know when they put them in the car, it's not going to be, an earth-shattering, what do I do situation? Because there's already so many rookies on the grid.
Yeah, I was looking at something interesting the other day on Instagram. It was like going through, it's like the best driver like pairings of all time. And I was going through it, I'm like waiting for Bottas and Hamilton, and it eventually came up. But I remembered how good of a driver he was, right? And he could have easily been at almost any other team at that time, and he would have been their number one, right? But, we all kind of not forget about him, but he's kind of like outshined by Lewis's success back in Mercedes. But Valtteri was really such an incredible driver. I mean, almost every time that Lewis was on the podium, Valtteri was too, right? I think he had one of the most highest podium percentages at Mercedes. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's a good move for sure. Not only for Mercedes but also for McLaren. But we also talked about early in the year, right? Zhou Guan Yu is at Ferrari, right?
Yes. Yeah. No, I think that's a good move on his part too. And I mean, look at George Russell, right? He has his seat at Mercedes because he was called up to be the reserve. I forget for who, but he was called up to take this spot in Mercedes when they needed a reserve driver. I mean, and that opened a lot of doors for him. And I know Valtteri has a lot of doors open and Cadillac's coming in, right? But it's a good spot to be in to be a reserve driver.
Yeah, for sure. And it also just keeps you, obviously, that you're not retiring and then having to come back, right? You're just staying in the sport. You're still
Mm-hmm.
It's important.
There's rumors going around the interwebs that Cadillac is eyeing up Sergio Perez for one of their seats. And it doesn't sound like Mario Andretti is denying those rumors. So who knows? We might see Checo back on the grid in a year.
I think that's something that no one's opposed to, right? I don't think there's a single F1 fan that is opposed to Checo, right? A lot of people, almost everybody loves him.
Yeah.
So, we saw that he obviously struggled with Red Bull, but who doesn't struggle with that? It's pretty hard, right? We see a lot of people cannot handle that car. But I think it's a good chance. And I think it's definitely a good move for Cadillac coming into the sport. Maybe not getting two rookie drivers, but also starting off strong if they can get two veteran drivers. Right, we're looking at maybe Valtteri, maybe Checo, right? Two veteran drivers that are very successful. We'll see what they can do for this new team.
What are your predictions this year for Japan? What do you think's going to happen? Because we're terrible at predicting these things.
Yeah,
So
so I'm just gonna keep my streak, and I'm gonna keep on going crazy. I'm not gonna try to play it safe because I'm already like too far in deep. So, I think I'm gonna go with I've been consistent all year. Max Verstappen. He won it last year. I hope he can win it again. So I'm gonna put him as my number one on top of the podium. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's my number one for every single race this year. So do not get upset. My number two, I do finally have to put Lando Norris in my top three. I do think there's a little bit going on there at McLaren, but I think he's going to pull out a good race. I'm going to put him at two. And I need to do something controversial because it wouldn't be my podium without it. So I'm going to put Yuki Tsunoda at number three. Right, it's his home race. First time, right, the fastest car he's ever driven in F1, right? He's going to be driving right in Japan. So I'm going to put Yuki as number three. So my predictions for Japan are Max number one, Lando as the two, and Yuki's going to come out, and we're going to get big points for Red Bull.
okay. Mine, I'm gonna go crazy for me. I think it's gonna be a Lando one. I think we are underestimating George Russell. I think he is the get in there man and he will do anything. So I'm gonna go with second for George Russell, and then I'm gonna go third place for Yuki because this man has a lot to prove. He came out strong earlier this year, and then to put this man in a Red Bull at his home race, like I would just love to see him win that. I think that'd be great. So little out there for me. I want to put Max on podium. I just think George Russell's going to get in there, and I don't think we're going to get a Red Bull double podium. So it's Yuki's home race. So for my Japan selections, I'm going to do Lando, George, and Yuki.
Yuki above Max. Oh my gosh. Do I even know you?
I actually think Max will end up with something like a DNF.
Okay, well, let's not say that.
I know, but that's what I think.
Okay.
I haven't been right at all this year, so it doesn't matter.
I know if you're right this time, I'm gonna be very upset. No, but yeah, I think you guys have a good race. I don't know. You like George Russell, but he really loves going into that the barrier, so we'll see what happens. He's gonna DNF. We'll see what happens.
I don't actually like George Russell.
We have to start making DNF predictions. So many. We have to start making predictions.
Yeah, that's true. I don't actually like George Russell, but I do like Toto and Kimi Antonelli, and George Russell does not annoy me like Lance Stroll does. You know, I loved Ferrari last year, but I'm pissed off about the Carlos Sainz situation, and I don't always love Lewis. So I struggle for that. Red Bull's hard I haven't liked any of their second seaters, so except for Danny Rick, who, lost.
Yeah.
He's got the fear and he can't drive anymore. So, it's like, what do you do?
Well, we'll see what happens in Japan, right? That's coming up this week. It should be a really exciting race. I think it's also going to be the main headline we're all going to see, right? Yuki Tsunoda home race. I think it will be a big race for Red Bull, right? They're going to be showing off that new livery. They're going to be showing off Yuki. We're going to see if, Max had 2 good races already, but he needs to start getting into the top of that podium. So we'll see what's going to happen. Thank you so much for watching Formula Facts. Another good episode. This is a quicker one, right? Because we didn't have to do that much or get that much ready in a little bit of time. So we had a little more time to go over a little bit of news, make some predictions, which was good. It was fun. But right when we get back into it, we got Japan, and we're going to keep on rolling from there. So thanks for joining us again on Formula Facts. I'm Jack Like.
I'm Destinee Day.
I think that really showed that when things go wrong, like they were freaking, like you hear Lando in that car freaking out.
Well, didn't have brakes. He might not have had any brakes. He's going 200 miles an hour. I'd be freaking out.
I know, but I'm just saying. My predictions for Japan are Max number one, Lando as the 2, and Yuki's going to come out, and we're going to get big points for Red Bull.
So for my Japan selections, I'm going to do Lando, George, and Yuki.